So this is something I've been wanting to do for a while now, but I wanted to give it some time, make sure I'm familiar enough, and I think I am. So let's get started. The bulk of the video is going to be like your daily duties, really. Because really, getting the most out of the game is more important than knowing exactly what you're doing at all points, you know? You'll learn that stuff along the way, but I digress. First of all, I want to talk about re-rolling. Generally, it's not that recommended. It takes quite a while to get to your first 30 summons. There is a hidden pity. When you first get to 30 summons, you'll get an SSR. Most of the SSRs you get here are going to be good for one thing or another. Sure, you could definitely prefer one over the other. Like King is generally a top pick. It's a fire attack weapon with high shatter potential. Just overall a very good starting weapon, I would say. So if you're going to suffer through the re-rolling, I would go for King, but having any good shatter weapon to start with, also Rosy Edge, would be fine. Rosy Edge was my first one and I was happy it was. You always need a high shatter weapon to remove shields on the various enemies in the game. So starting with an SSR, really cool. That's pretty much my 2 cents on rerolling. If you check the Tower Fantasy interactive map and you're really interested in going for the reroll, there's a sort of recommended path you can take to get to those 30 summons. But honestly, if you just stick with the game and playing it, you'll get tons of SSRs in time. And besides that, within about a week of playing, you should have enough points to get your SSR selector anyway, in case you don't have a good shatter weapon at that point. So should you reroll? In my opinion, nah, just play the game. But if you really want to, the option is there, and I would recommend trying to get a good shatter weapon as your first weapon. Speaking on weapons, there's something that took me an embarrassing long time to figure out. You see this little magnifying glass here? If you click that, you'll get all the different abilities your weapon can do. As you get new SSRs and build out your kit, I would try and get somewhat familiar with how they work. Some, like dual EM stars here, are pretty simple. And then we have Nemesis with like a lot of different sort of combos and stuff. Like that's just her dodge. And then, so I'd advise against trying to learn every tiny detail about your build, like straight away. It can get very overwhelming. Just know that this is here when you want to get more intimate with your weapons. Going back a bit to basics, as I was talking about in the reroll section, shatter is essentially the ability to remove shields. You can, again, click the question marks and read about that here, but you do heavily reduce damage when you're just attacking a shield. So using something like Rosy Edge or Meryl here helps get rid of the shield a lot faster. Next most important is to have a damage dealing weapon once you get rid of the shield. You can basically judge that by looking at this little icon here. If it has this symbol, it's an attack weapon. If it has this symbol, it is a defensive weapon. And if it has this symbol, it means that it has the capability to heal you. I personally love having a healing weapon with me at all times, just because I'm not like the biggest connoisseur of eating food in the middle of battle and would prefer to heal myself with skills. I currently have one of each type equipped, so I have the balanced resonance, and you will always have some resonance or another, as there are only 3 different types. I wouldn't worry about the weapon resonance too much. I would more focus on getting a good set of 3 weapons that complement each other. I'm personally going with this set because I have Nemesis. Its special ability has Volt Resonance, and that means when you have 2 Volt weapons, you get some buffs here. And I chose dual EM stars here because at a low star rating, it is better than the Thunderblades I was using before. There are some alright SRs you can use too until you get some SSRs. Like the Pummeler here, definitely not bad, has some decent damage, and would probably be a shatter weapon until you get an SSR shatter weapon. Staff of Scars is also solid. The 4 stars are definitely outclassed by their SSR counterparts, so try not to invest a ton into those. As a beginner, your main focus should be on doing the main story. A lot of content is locked behind the main story quest, and you'll get some pretty good rewards by following through it. It's also a pretty decent source of experience points, so what I've been personally doing is waiting until I don't have Vitality anymore, because that's also a big source of XP. And the next priority is going ahead for the main story quest until I get to the level cap, and then I chill out with the main story. Because once you hit level cap and max XP out of max XP, every XP after that is wasted. To be honest, I'm not totally sure how important not wasting XP is, since especially now a couple weeks into the server, we've had days where there are no level jumps at all, and it's already been reduced from 3 levels per day to 2 levels every other day, I guess. I'm not sure how it'll continue to progress like that, but the main story quest is locked behind the amount of days the server has been up anyway, so in most cases you'll be more or less caught up regardless. There are things you can do at any time, like ruins. They never expire, they never refresh really. They are one-time things. In general, you should do them when you can because you get these potent omnium crystals, levels up your suppressor, you get a lot of stats over time. But as you can see, it's also a pretty big source of EXP. So personally, if I'm already at level cap, I wait to do these, especially since I'm bottlenecked by my CS not being high enough and not these potent omnium crystals. That being said, there are some other good things in there as well, but you don't necessarily need to do these as soon as they're unlocked. So in terms of daily requirements, there's only one thing you really need to pay attention to over the course of an actual day, and that is your vitality up here. It recovers very slowly. I believe the entire 180 takes 24 hours to replenish, so you could essentially play in one chunk at once. It's also cool that 180 vitality divides very nicely into everything you can spend vitality on. I mentioned that you probably shouldn't do this until at least 50 because you have a chance to get some legendary gear, but honestly, already at difficulty 4, you can consider it. You have a chance to get purple gear, which is perfectly fine, and this is what you're going to be rocking for a while anyway. Besides that, the other stuff to spend vitality on are pretty small rewards also. Naturally, if you're raising a ton of matrices, then you might need to run the matrix pack a little bit. Generally though, you should try and limit the amount of weapons you raise, because in most cases you're going to go with a team of 4 that can fill in a lot of the other roles anyway, and especially as you level up, it becomes a big waste of resources. So especially until later levels, you won't need a ton of weapon batteries. So first thing, try to never have your vitality capped. Also the obvious, do your daily quests. That's probably the largest source of XP and other materials. There's also weekly quests. You get additional rewards as well as some bundled rewards up here. Most of them are pretty easy to complete. When it comes to Mia's Kitchen, I usually save it until I have 3 out of 3, so more in the evening, and then I go do some hard content, as her buffs, yes, they're small and they only last 30 minutes, but you know, especially when you're trying to get higher in like Bygone Phantasm or something, every little bit helps. I also just pray I get the buffs I actually want. So then we have the challenge tab. The only daily thing you should do here is training. They are essentially little mini games. You can do 2 per day. They're quite annoying to get to, but you know, you get some training points, which you can spend on weapon or matrix data packs. I've been going for gifts with these because it's the fastest way to raise your Simulacra and get that little ability there. So besides training, everything else in challenge mode is weekly. Bygone Phantasm and Apex League is true weekly, where it resets Monday, 5 a.m. every time. With Frontier Clash and Void Rifts, you get 3 entries on 3 separate days, and they can carry over into the next week, which is why I'm not bothered that I have 2 out of 3 here, even though it's Sunday. And then Wormhole resets every 5 days, so I guess that'll be a little more annoying to keep track of. There is some less obvious stuff, which is why we're here in Cetus. Over here next to Slayer, there's this arcade machine called the Strange Gadget. Here at the Strange Gadget, we have Magic Claw. I've already done this today, so I can't really show you, but basically, you can come here every day, play the claw 3 times, get some of those plushies for friendship points. Here's the exact location on the map if you want to take note. In a similar vein, over here in Bongus Black Market, right here is a guy where you can open a mystery box free every day. As for the things I've gotten from him, it was more of the same, just friendship or awakening materials. You can also get some random things from these chests as well. I'm pretty sure they reset daily because I could have sworn I got those last time as well, essentially for vehicle maintenance or upgrading. Also, if you're in a crew, make sure to do your daily donation and of course weekly tasks. Of course, there are things you can do at any time like world exploration. There's so much stuff to pick up out here, mostly these black nucleus, which if you're lucky enough, you can get some SSRs from. I have yet to be that lucky, but Bones has already gotten 2 SSRs from the Black Nucleus, of course. But yeah, lots of other small things as well. But yeah, of course, the interactive map as well can help you find everything. It's very overwhelming when you look at it all at once, but if you just focus on a small area, check off the things you find, you'll be done in no time. I mean, it'll take a long time, but still. There are also world bosses. You'll start with Robarg here. You can, you know, form a team and go after those. I've heard it's not advisable until around level 40 to actually use the gold chips to unlock the chest, but if you want to, you still could fight him and just force decipher it before level 40. You'll still get some small stuff. I also do want to talk about the commissary because there are a lot of different currencies here. I'm sure there's some questions about what you should spend them on. I've gotten feedback from other players, so I have a better idea outside my own thoughts here. Starting with the Crystal Dust Store, by far the most important are going to be the booster modules and the advancement modules. This is what you need to enhance your gear over here. Enhancements carry over from gear to gear, so it's okay if you're enhancing green gear or blue gear. It's fine because it'll just get transferred to a new piece. Advancement, on the other hand, is what you want to save for at least purple gear. Gear in general is a more mid-level type thing, but just quickly, I guess it should be noted that you have 4 stats here, and as you advance it, one of them randomly gets boosted. Some will be totally useless, like physical attack. It even says it there, ineffective stat. I don't use physical weapons, and Volt Attack would be useless for you if you don't use Volt weapons. At this point in the server, purple gear is still very, very hard to get, so I'll do a bit of an advancement if there's at least something that's good like Volt Attack. All the shops here continue to change as you level up, and we'll eventually get gold orbs as well. So all I can say for sure is that booster modules and advancement modules, make sure to get those every week. I'm personally buying a piece of gear here and there with the purple crystals, but you can see I'm mostly just hoarding them. When it comes to the weapon and matrix store, that's going to come a bit down to your personal situation, especially in the beginning. Most of the starter SSR weapons will get eventually outclassed and thrown out of the meta if you care about that. So again, I'm mostly just hoarding my tokens, but if something did come up where I felt like, you know, another dual EM stars or something would be super beneficial, I would grab it. Same with the matrix store. If I really wanted the 3-piece and, you know, I could get the 4th piece from one of these, then I would probably do that as well. I've also heard 2-piece sets are good, in particular Samir and Crow. 2-piece Samir increasing the damage by 1% up to 10 times at 0 stars, while Crow increases the crit damage to targets with less than 60% HP. Then we have the crew store. Honestly, I'm not really doing much here. I think I bought a few potent omnium crystals. Now I have 15, so I don't feel like I need to. The gear here is super expensive. So this I feel, at least right now, is more of just a bonus store. Then we have the support store. You get this currency essentially by playing team content without getting anything from it. So if you're bored, all out of vitality, and want to run some stuff, you can at least get some support points. The joint supply chips will be really handy a little bit later when you start doing a lot more joint operations. Then there's Black Nucleus. I mean, it is potentially an SSR. And then finally, the point store you get from the training we were talking about earlier. What you should buy kind of depends on which Simulacra you're raising, but that might be a topic for a different video. All right, small tangent. I'll have this in a separate timestamp if you want to skip it. We're gonna buy one of each here just to kind of give a demonstration, because this was kind of confusing for me for a bit as well. So over here in Simulacra, once you get them to awaken level 3, you can turn on this Simulacrum trait. I have it for Nemesis here. I honestly didn't even check the other abilities of the other Simulacra I have, so I can't tell you if this one's actually good or not compared to the others, but I'm just trying to show you how this system works. So in the Simulacra tab, if you go over here to awaken, you can see these traits down here. We recently got her to 1200, so we got this little passive ability. Once you get them to fully awaken, the same passive ability gets quite a lot stronger, and you raise their awakening primarily with gifts. Every Simulacra is different, but Nemesis, for example, here enjoys toys, decorations, and everyday items. The small and fine gifts only include gifts with 1 tag. We can choose at least one, always here. That matches with my Simulacra's trait. And here we can get everyday items from the green one, but then in special gift, they all come with 2 traits. And in my case down here, this Angela ornament comes with 2 of the traits my Simulacra wants. And since this is a purple item with 2 of the matching traits, it gives me 80. Whereas this blue one, which only matches 1 trait, gives me 30. Less than half of the points, but I only paid twice as much. Therefore, at least in Nemesis's case, this is the best. Could potentially be different for your Simulacra if none of the purple items contain 2 of the traits they like. But yeah, there's that tangent over. But yeah, I guess that'll pretty much do it. This guide was obviously not all encompassing. There's a ton of little details when it comes to Tower of Fantasy and things you can do. But if you feel like there are any that are super important that I missed, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. Oh yeah, really quick, it took me forever to realize you need the strange cube to get rid of this ball on the dude's head. Again, that's just one of those weird tiny random things that you'll probably figure out on your own anyway. Dropping a like or subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.